Some patients feel that clinical trials aren't safe. Is that the case, Dr. Pollack?
No, I mean, clinical trial, we go through, as I was saying before, these clinical trials are extensively vetted. So the safety is, of course, one of the things that we look most carefully about. But as I was saying before, like with any treatments, I mean, cancer treatments have toxicity. That's a common problem. So, and when you're dealing with something brand new, sometimes there is a little bit more risk. So when you're talking about these very early stage phase 1 trials, you probably want to talk to your doctor about what sorts of toxicities you can expect and where they are in the phase 1 trial. Are you the first person ever to receive this new drug? And if you are, nobody's making you go on the clinical trial. So, it can only hurt. It can only help to get more information, right? So you should ask your team about it. You should find out. Most of the time, there's going to be a lot of patients that have been treated already, and they can tell you, they can't give you definitive data about how things are going, but they can maybe say, hey, I've already treated a few patients on it and they seem to be doing great. Yeah.
So you need to weigh the pros and cons of
you do need to weigh the pros and cons. Now, when you're talking about these phase 2s and phase 3s, I mean, these are drugs now that have really been vetted for their safety, and we have a lot of data about it. And even in the phase 1s, I mean, it's not like these things are coming out of nowhere. They've been scrutinized. We really expect that they're going to be safe. But, we're doing the trial to prove it. So it's a good thing to ask about.
Yeah.
I would also add that it's so closely monitored that, safety is a top priority. It's like front and center. So, the advantage, I think, with being, on a trial is like the close monitoring of the patient, exactly for this reason. If something is a miss, it's going to be picked up as quickly as possible, and any issues are going to be addressed as soon as. So I think safety does get addressed pretty quickly.
Good. Can data from trials even be trusted? Dr. Pollack, is that the case?
Well, of course, it can be trusted, because the thing with the clinical trial data is that you really see the data. And there's all kinds of scrutiny, making sure that the data is reported accurately. Now there's a whole other conversation we could have as to whether we could interpret the data differently. And sometimes that is an issue that comes up, but the data is reported very accurately. So there are statistics that are very well understood that, and the bar is actually pretty high to say that one arm of the trial was better than the other arm of the trial. So if patients have better survival on one arm, if we say that, usually that means they did considerably better, enough better that it wasn't a random chance that patients just happened, one extra patient did better on the treatment arm. No, there were enough patients that did better that the statisticians can go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and they can be absolutely sure, up to exactly how many percent sure they can tell you, 0.05% or less chance of error, that this was a real difference between the treatment arm and the study arm and the standard of care arm.
I think you mentioned two words. One is trust and one is data. So Dr. Pollack mentioned a lot about the data. I think the trust is also a very important thing. I like to go with positive intent, because I do not have a reason to believe like my doctor has some ulterior motive to, suggest a clinical trial. And so I trust them wholeheartedly. So I think that's the first hurdle is like, you have to trust the system, or, what is being proposed to you, because as Dr. Pollack said, it's gone through a lot of vetting. So, a recommendation to go through, be part of a trial itself is vetted by your doctor when they make the recommendation. So, have faith, have trust that they are making a good recommendation. And then, of course, the data, I don't know much about that, but, as I said, I trust it. So I would trust the data too.
Of course. Some patients feel like they're going to lose their privacy. Sujata, did you feel that at all?
No, Not at all. I mean, with everything else that is also taken care of, like my information or whatever is not made available to anybody. And so, obviously there's a lot of paperwork that goes in. I had a huge pile of paperwork to go through, but I think that's a good thing for my, peace of mind that I knew that, my information was not going to be shared outside of the study, the trial, etc., and things. So no, I don't think that's a problem.
Okay. Beyond these misconceptions, is there anything else you hear, Dr. Pollack?
No, I mean, look, in our crazy modern world, there's concerns everywhere, but the clinical trial is very, very careful. Whenever possible, we just use we use the medical charts. And then, we have a very stringently protected database that's storing people's information, but it's de-identified. We have a separate key to figure out who the patients are. And then we try and limit the use of the patient's name or any identifying information about them beyond that. So, and your information is not shared. Like, for example, if there's a drug company involved in the trial, your information is not shared with the drug company. You have a new identifier that is unique and not traceable back to you, that is provided to whoever, if there's outside groups that are working on the trial with you. So your information is very carefully protected, and everyone is very conscious about issues regarding privacy.
That's great to know.